Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls out there in Cyberland. Good morning, good night, good evening, depending on the time you're watching this video. Now, this is To Love an Introverted Person Part 2. What the hell is going on? The most painful things a human can experience. So this is Part 2. If you haven't watched Part 1, I recommend you go watch Part 1 first, because you'll have a better insight on what is going on in this video and you'll be up to date. So I want to go over now the most painful things a person can experience from my perspective and what I actually experienced recently. So let's get back to the story of how I ended up in the hospital, what exactly happened. And yeah, I'll just be doing some morning chores and kind of talking to you guys, walking you through. And excuse the phone, I'm using a different phone now to record. I'll probably move it just a little bit closer so maybe it can focus better. Yeah, so let's get back into the story. Now, if you plan a wonderful trip, a wonderful life with someone, you hope that everything goes as planned. And a lot of times it just doesn't work that way. So for an example, I'm going to use this little glass here to kind of explain to you that you have a visual of what I'm saying. And this is the glass of tolerance, okay? So every time something negative happens in our life, this glass becomes a little bit full. For example, so let's start here. Once that glass of tolerance is full, everyone have a different limit. Everyone have a different glass too. Not everyone's glass is so, they're different sizes. Some have a smaller tolerance than others, and some have a little bit more. Some people's glasses are big and some are small. And it's just how God made us. It's just how we are, how our parents made us, whatever. And yeah, so we'll keep that in mind. But let's get started with the story. So our story started off, we had big dreams of doing something, to start a new life and to do something and live in a place where it's more sunny, where it's like, where it's feeling good, and the energy and the people are not so they're more friendly, let's just say it like this. But okay, so we came over here, and from the very beginning of our trip, something was off. And what I mean something was off, I mean I'm a person that's kind of spiritual. I read the signs. I kind of look at what's going on around me. I do believe my third eye is open. This is why I'm so shocked about how I missed all these details. But everyone have their level. You can't be the master of everything, and you can't always read nature and what nature's lessons have for you. Now, if you understood how nature works, if you really understood this, then congratulations, because you are above human. Most humans do receive tests, and they come at the level that we are at for each of us. Like the level of glasses we have, this is the level of tension and stress we're able to handle and take on. So the test that's given to us by nature is given to us based on our level of what we can handle. Sometimes people just really break and end up killing themselves and stuff like that. Thank God nothing like this happened. So back to the beginning of the story. From the beginning it was off. So before we even arrived, we were sitting in a hotel, and it's like I'm asking a question like, what's going on with the people? Do they know that we're going to arrive? Will they be there when we show up? Because we sent money to them before, and we just wanted to make sure. And she was trying to contact them, and all of a sudden the social media was gone. Everything was gone from we couldn't call. They hung up the phone. They didn't answer, and I was like, oh my God, we sent money over to a place, and I have a feeling we've been scammed. Because I let her organize it for the simple fact she told me sometimes I'm too paranoid about things, and I'm asking too many questions, and I want to know what's going on. So I kind of took 2 steps back to let her organize things. Apparently I should have been paranoid because we got scammed out of 500 euro. So before we even arrived, and it could have been more if I just really didn't stop her, because she kind of wanted to send everything at one time, and I'm like, wait a second, we didn't see the place, we don't know what it looks like, you know, what if they're not even there, which was the case. Nobody showed up and we just got scammed out of. And what it turns out is this is an organization, or I don't know, a couple, a group, or whatever, but they're doing this to a lot of people. A lot of people are booking this place, they're sending money, and they're very organized. I understand how she got tricked, but sometimes the control of humans is not as strong as the power of instinct in the spiritual world, the insight you get from nature. Sometimes this is more powerful than what we think we can control. This is what happened. From her standpoint, everything was organized and okay because she did everything the correct way. She received the picture, she received the contract, everything looked legit, but somehow my spiritual side of me says something is wrong and to check it out. And I told her to call before we arrived, and then we realized we were scammed. So, with that in mind, being scammed, we're going to put that in a cup of tolerance because that was a big shock for us. So once again, the glass is being filled up. Now, after that, we went to we started to then search for a new place because it was like we were already on the way. The moving truck was already coming with all of our things. We were in the middle. We were in one country over, and we were on the way here. And it was like, well, what are we going to do now? And I said, we just have to find a new place. So we got online. We started, you know, after the talk, we started, you know, getting online and looking for another option to find a place. And thank God it was before the season started, because during the season, everything is booked out in Croatia. You just can't find nothing, no place, because everyone from around the world is coming here. So anyway, we had luck. Thank God we had luck, and we found a very lovely couple who was renting out this beautiful home here. And you know, they came in the night because we arrived in the night. It didn't matter. She showed up for us. She showed us the place. Very friendly and very nice. I recommend. And it was just I was thanking God for this. I was really thanking nature that this worked out, because the people, we found out later that people who came here that was scammed by the same people, they came here from Poland. They realized they didn't have a place and they had to go back to Poland right away. We didn't have this option with the moving truck coming and all this, so we just had to really fight it out. But this built up some tension, and I felt, and I said in the hotel, now the energy has shifted. Something is totally off about this trip, and my senses were on alert. I knew the vibe was not the same. I feel the vibes of people, things, and situations. So I said, something is off, the vibe is off. We have to reverse this now. Because before we even entered the country, things started to fall apart. So anyway, we're sitting in this apartment and everything is fine. Now, when we entered this place, we had good vibes, you know, everything was okay. It was like a good feeling about it. We were just probably thankful that we found a place. But then the story becomes even more worse. Things became even more difficult. And then I started to have pain. Now, I've been having pain in my back for years. I always thought that I was just lifting too much DJ equipment. I was dancing too much. I was always pretty active on things, and I thought that I just had maybe a bad back. I tried different teas and things like this. But the source of the problem was the whole time is I had kidney stones. And these kidney stones built up, moved around over the years, and you know, it came to a point where everything exploded at one time. When it rains, it pours, right? It was like nature brought every single element of what can go wrong. It added it to the situation. So before I continue with the story, I would like for you guys to watch a video about kidney stones and how people get kidney stones, because you never know, maybe you'll be in a situation, you may have a little bit of knowledge about this. And if you are a person out there who like to watch informative information on YouTube, then this channel is definitely the channel for you. So if you like informative information, please like, subscribe, and comment. Watch further and we'll continue with the story. But first of all, let me present to you how kidney stones are formed, what is the procedure, what is the operation, how does everything work with it, and then we'll get back into the story. So enjoy.
Kidney stones are one of the most painful things that a human being can possibly experience. And the older you get, the more likely it is that you are going to get to experience one of these rocky bundles of joy. So in today's video, we're going to use the cadavers to take a look at the inside of a kidney and see exactly where, why, and how they form. And on top of that, we're going to be able to see why they hurt so much. Let's do this. I will never forget this. It must have been maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I was here in the lab, and I had a group of students here with me, and I was teaching the kidneys, and we were talking about kidney stones. And one of the students looks at me with the most intensely serious face I've ever seen, like just straight dead in the eyes, and she says to me, "I've had 6 children. I would rather have all 6 of them, all natural, back to back, than ever have kidney stones again." And I remember it was just like super quiet, and I just look at her and I say, "Well, I don't have a uterus, and I've never personally had a kidney stone myself, so I'm just gonna have to take your word for it." But what you have to understand is that her experience and sentiment surrounding kidney stones is very, very common. A lot of people do compare kidney stones with childbirth. But the thing you have to understand is that pain is actually very subjective. Meaning that if I was somehow able to give this exact same kidney stone to 2 different people and then they had the exact same experience, they're still going to process the pain differently. And that doesn't make one more real than the other. Just understand pain is subjective. So I can't tell you how painful kidney stones are because there's a lot of different factors that go into it. I mean, like I said, it's the person, but it's also their overall health. It's the size and shape of the kidney stone. It's the hardness of the kidney stone. There are a lot of factors that go into it. Just understand that kidney stones are painful, and it may be more painful than childbirth, it may not, but either way, you do not want to have these things. So let's go ahead and take a look at a cadaver and see exactly why. You are looking at a left kidney, and I know that because this ureter right here is behind these blood vessels, which tells me that it's a left. Now, you need to also understand that the left kidney happens to be a little bit bigger and a little bit higher in the body when compared to the right kidney. And that's because the liver, which is on the right side, is so massive, it shrinks the kidney a little bit and also lowers it slightly. But on the outside of the kidney, there is a bunch of connective tissue, and you can see some of it kind of chewed up here, and that's just due to handling that it's kind of been roughed up like that. But this outer connective tissue layer is called the renal capsule or the fibrous capsule. You can kind of choose which one you want to call it. But this is true for most structures in the body, that they have a connective tissue outer layer that's just going to be very protective and just help with a variety of different problems. But one of my favorite things to do here in the lab is this next part, and you're going to love this. I can actually grab the kidney and reflect it open. And that's because we've cut the kidney in what's known as the coronal or frontal plane. And that basically just means that we've cut the kidney so there is an anterior or front portion and a posterior or back portion. And this allows us to see a ton of really cool and interesting anatomy. But I'm going to go ahead and take this half, place it over here, and we're going to focus today right here because this is going to allow us to see pretty much everything we need to see. Now, in order to best understand kidney stones, we also need to understand how the kidney works in general. So the kidney does a variety of different things, but if you could just sum it up real nice and easy, it filters your blood. And that's going to be the most relevant function of the kidney for our purposes today. So how it does that is this structure right here is called the renal artery. And the renal artery is going to start taking blood, unfiltered blood, and as you notice, it's going to start splitting. And as it starts splitting, it's going to start heading up to this portion here. And it's going to be difficult to see exactly where those splits are, but it's going to head to this outer rim here, and this is known as the renal cortex. Cortex just translates to bark, like bark of a tree, so it's a surface type region. And this is where most of the interesting things in the kidney actually occurs. Problem is, it's too small for us to see with the naked eye. But inside of this cortex are a bunch of tiny little filtration units that are going to filter the blood for us. So we take the unfiltered blood to the cortex, it becomes filtered, and then what's going to happen is that newly filtered blood will be deposited into the venous system. And it's going to go back that same pathway. It'll just be a different tube. And it will then exit the kidney right here in this structure known as the renal vein. So we bring blood in through the renal artery, and then we take blood out that's been filtered to the renal vein. And the renal vein is then going to connect to a larger blood vessel, which will then transport it to the heart. So just think about it like this. The heart pumps blood to the kidneys to be filtered, gets filtered, and then gets sent back to the heart. But it doesn't send, obviously, all the blood at once. Otherwise, it'd be a closed loop and you'd never get blood anywhere. This whole process is happening 24/7, 365. You are always filtering your blood, and that's a good thing, because if you weren't filtering your blood, the blood becomes very toxic very quickly. And we'll see exactly how that happens in just a moment. But when it does filter out these particulates, they have to go somewhere. So where they're going to go is into this next region here that we call the renal medulla or medulla. And that just basically means marrow, but it's just this middle-ish portion. So we have the cortex on the rim, and then we have this inner portion that we call the medulla. But inside of the medulla are going to be all these really cool-looking structures called renal pyramids. And if I had done the dissection differently, we would actually be able to see that these structures do in fact have a pyramidal shape to them. They're really, really cool. So human beings have on average around 7 to 8 of these inside of the kidney, but you can actually have more. This just comes down to variability within the species. But what's going to happen is when the blood has been filtered, all the stuff that your body decided it didn't want is going to be dropped into these renal pyramids. And it's going to drop down. There's tiny little tubules just located inside of here. And it's then going to get to these next structures right here called the renal papillae. And papilla just means nipple. So if you were to look at these, they do have a kind of nippular shape, I guess you could say. And this structure is going to be important for kidney stone formation as we go forward on. And we also have to understand that now we have a new substance. We're going to start calling it urine. So urine is going to be composed of particulates, things that the body deemed as being waste or just it outright didn't need, and it's going to mix that with water to form urine, and it's then going to go into the urinary tract. So this is where the urinary tract is going to begin, is in these renal pyramids to the renal papillae, and it's then going to go into another structure here called the calyxes, or the calyces. Now, calyx means husk, like the husk of corn. So that's where it gets its name. And this is going to be very important for kidney stone formation. And it's then going to come over to this structure here called the renal pelvis. Pelvis is just base. So this is the base of the kidney because renal also means kidney. And then the urine is then going to go down this very long tube that we call the ureter. And the ureter, which we've obviously cut here, would then be connected to the bladder. And then the bladder, which is just a storage facility for the urine, would then have the urethra coming out of it to drain the urine out of it. Now that we know how the kidneys filter blood, we can begin to discuss the process with which kidney stones will form. And probably unsurprising to you, it's going to happen in the urinary tract. So the urinary tract, again, begins here inside of the collecting tubules of the renal pyramids, and then will end with the urethra. Now, kidney stones come in a variety of different flavors, types, I don't know, it's probably a better way to say that. It's about 5 types on average, but we're just going to go ahead and kind of even the playing field and just say that it's one type, and that's going to be calcium oxalate. The reason why I say that is because calcium oxalate make about 80% or so of the stones that do form, and that's pretty much throughout the entire urinary tract. But what you need to understand is that they form due to what's known as supersaturation. So urine, again, is going to be a byproduct. It's going to be that, so the blood filters it, and it comes down here, and you're going to have a lot of different components inside of your urine in this area, such as urea, which helps to give urine its name, but you're also going to have water. You're going to have hormones. You're gonna have things that you basically are just outright waste products, are toxic to your body, and you're also gonna have things your body just has too much of, such as hormones like human chorionic gonadotropin. That's HCG, and that's the hormone of pregnancy. It's what alerts the body to let you know that you're pregnant. And so what'll happen is you will urinate out the excessive amounts of it, and then we can detect that with a pregnancy test. So we can do that with a variety of different substances. But one of the things that is also going to be in there are electrolytes. Now, electrolytes are not just found in Gatorade, right? They're all throughout your body. These are going to be charged particles, such as like calcium, sodium, potassium. Now, calcium is going to be the most relevant to us due to the fact that we're dealing with calcium oxalate stones. But just understand that electrolytes are also going to attract water to them. So for urine to flow throughout your urinary tract, what will happen is the kidney will actually deposit in electrolytes to attract water from the blood, from the interstitial tissue of the kidney itself into there. So then you have this liquid that'll more easily be transported down through the system. Now, thing is though, if you have too many electrolytes, specifically in this instance, we're going to say calcium and oxalate and phosphate, what will happen is you get supersaturation. And when it's supersaturated, crystals can begin to form inside of the urinary tract. Now, typically, they're going to form here in the collecting tubules of that renal pyramid and in the papilla of the renal pyramid. And so this is where you have this event called nucleation occur. And then what's going to happen is it's slowly going to start to get bigger, and all the crystals just start merging into what we call aggregation. So they start getting larger. So we have an aggregation event. And that's when it's going to form a much larger stone. And I actually have a kidney stone right here that we can look at to get a kind of understanding as to the size of this thing. So I went ahead and measured this kidney stone beforehand, and it's about 7 millimeters. So you have to understand that below 5 millimeters is often seen as being easily passable. I don't know if that's always the right term for it, but meaning that it usually doesn't require intervention. All you have to do is observe it, let it pass, and things are going to be fine. Between 5 and 10 millimeters, it's still passable, but you're probably going to need some kind of intervention, such as medications, or we'll kind of get there in a bit. But they can get even bigger than that. They can get all the way up to 20 millimeters. That's ridiculous. That's like 3 times the size of this stone right here. But you can see that so let's go back here. So once it nucleates and aggregates, it's then going to kind of set up shop in either the calyxes or the renal pelvis or the ureter, any of those places we mentioned earlier, and it's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow until it gets pretty massive to the point where it will then detach and it will start flowing through with the urine until it reaches this point here. And this is where we begin to have a pretty big problem, because you can see already that this stone is going to be bigger than the tube itself. The ureter's diameter is about 4 millimeters. This is why 5 millimeters and below is more handleable. Is that a word? I don't know if that's a word. And then anything above that is going to create issues. And you can see that the shape is also going to be crazy. These kidney stones can have some crazy shapes that look like they're from the bowels of hell or something like that. And so what will happen is this, not only is it massive, it's pokey and jagged, and it's going to start to go into this tube. Now, one thing you have to understand too is how, and I'll move this kidney stone for a second, is how the urinary tract puts urine or moves urine through the body. What will happen is this tube here is layered, and there is a muscular layer to it that will actually contract. So what will happen is the ureter is normally closed, which makes sense. You don't want to have the tube just permanently open, because imagine if you did a handstand, all the urine from your bladder would go up the ureter and back to the kidney. That doesn't make much sense. So it's going to be closed off. But as the kidneys filter more blood and make urine, what will happen is it'll eventually open up and it'll allow urine to flow into it, and then it will close behind it. So you have this discrete chunk of urine that's going to be through here, and then the tube is going to contract and squeeze it down. We call this peristalsis. And this happens in other places in the body too, like your cardiovascular system, your digestive system. But this is how you're going to move urine down into the bladder. And I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about, and if you don't, you're lying. Have you ever been sitting on the toilet, on your phone for way too long, and all of a sudden just more pee comes out? Wait a little bit longer, then more pee comes out. That's pretty much the peristalsis in action, just kind of moving. That's the amount of urine you've been making while you've been sitting there, essentially. But the reason why I bring this up is because now I bring the kidney stone back. When that kidney stone, I can try and center this a little bit, kidney stone reaches this point, it's going to start to try to go down. And as it does that, the tube is going to start cramping around it, and it's going to attempt to push it down. And this is one of the biggest reasons for having so much pain, is the tube is just contracting, that muscular layer is just cramping and pushing around it in an attempt to push that entire stone down here. And I'm going to do my best. Let's look at this. Let's see if we can get a side-by-side comparison. Kind of pull this up here so you can see just how big this is. I mean, even if it's going parallel, it's still a pretty big stone. But if it's even going this way, that's even more of a problem. But I even have other stones. Look at this. So I measured this stone and this stone. These stones here, again, I don't know their exact composition. I haven't done any kind of analysis. I imagine they're probably calcium oxalate or calcium phosphate, but they get to be bigger. The biggest stone we have here is going to be, I think, this one, which is around 9 millimeters. And you can see the problem here. Just like compare the tube and then compare the size of it. And you can see that we have a pretty big problem here that it's just not going to fit. And that's where you're definitely going to have to start doing what are known as interventions. Interventions are going to be things like medications such as painkillers or muscle relaxers, which are going to focus on that ureter, which makes a ton of sense, right? If you can get it to relax and open up, it's going to be easier for that stone to then pass through. But it's also going to be things like surgical procedures, such as shockwave lithotripsy. This is where you'll lay down and they will send focused sound waves through water and your back into the kidney to help pulverize the stone. But this depends on the hardness of the stone, which depends on what it's made of, depends on the location. So it may take only one session, it may take multiple sessions, or that may not even be the best way to go. They may have to go in actually and cut through your skin, into the kidney itself and extract the stone that way. But another option is going to be what's known as a ureteroscopy. And a ureteroscopy, they go up the urethra, into the bladder, up the entire ureter, and then into the kidney itself if they need to go that far. And they have a little basket that they can actually grab the stone and pull it. Or they can even have a laser attached to it, which will laser the stone. And then they use the basket to capture the stone fragments or as much as they can and pull it out like so. So these are going to be things that, I mean, it makes things easier, but they come with their own set of issues, and each of them have complications. They have their own set of pain. It's one of those things that it's like, even if you're making the stone, let's say you were able to obliterate it and make it smaller, well, you still have to pass a lot of fragments. Say like if we just did the shockwave lithotripsy, you're still going to have to pass those fragments, and they may be much smaller. They should be smaller than 4 millimeters, which will make it much easier, but it's not as though it's going to be outright comfortable to do so. But in the end, it's going to be obviously much better than if you didn't laser it or obliterate it with shock waves in the first place. Okay, so you're probably wondering now that I've terrified you to your core, or if you've had these before, you already know, like, what can I do to prevent this from happening? What's causing it in the first place? And the things that we see, it really comes down to two main ones, and that's going to be a genetic predisposition, you have a family history of it, or it's going to be based around your diet. But even if it's one of those two things, the end result is going to be that supersaturation that we mentioned. You're going to have too much calcium and oxalate and phosphate inside of your urinary tract. So diet is going to be something that you can very readily control, and you're going to want to partake in foods that are going to be lower in oxalate. So you want to avoid things like beans or potatoes or spinach for that nature. You can find lists of the foods that are going to be lower in oxalate or higher in oxalate. You're going to want to have foods that have a better source of calcium. But the main thing, well, maybe I shouldn't say the main thing, but one of the biggest factors is actually just going to be properly hydrated. You're going to want to make sure that you're urinating, because if you are properly hydrated through proper sources of hydration, not just drinking, say, like soda or cola specifically, because colas have also been shown to have a strong link to kidney stone formation. So by drinking enough water, well, maybe I should say this first. If you're dehydrated, well, then you're going to have supersaturation because there's less water content inside of your urine. But if you're properly hydrated, you can have a more normal saturation level and make it far less likely for you to have those stones. So it's probably no surprise to anyone that the answer, or at least the best remedy or prevention method, is going to be a better overall diet and drinking water. So why are kidney stones so painful? Well, it's a combination of things. It happens to be the fact that there's a stone forming inside of your urinary tract, which can obstruct flow and create pressure inside of the kidney. It's the fact that it's sharp and jagged oftentimes, or just oddly shaped, and it's pushing its way through a tube that the tube is smaller than the stone itself. And then it's scratching and scraping its way down, the entire way down, by the way. And sometimes you might get a moment of respite or relief when it gets to the bladder, but sometimes you may not. And you also have the residual leftover feeling, even if it is in the bladder, or if it's out the urethra, of the fact that your body just went through a traumatic event, so it's trying to heal that way. So, but yeah, then it's gonna go through the urethra. And by the way, this is one of the very few times in human biology that it's worse to be a male, because he's going to have an obviously longer urethra that is then gonna have to go out. So it's a combination of all of those types of things coming together to create this just insanely, horrifyingly painful experience.
So guys, welcome back. I hope you guys understand a little bit more about kidney stones. As the doctor said, it is very painful. I'm a witness for that. It is something common, I guess, that happens to people, and I guess I now will pay more attention to my diet and the food I'm eating, and definitely stay away from Coca-Cola and all this stuff. I know this is bad anyway, and eventually these things catch up with you. So if you're out there drinking Coca-Cola and things like this, I mean, it's your life, do what you want, but maybe it's time to start to listen more closely to the doctors. So yeah, so I hope that was informative for you. Yeah, let's get back to the story. So now we're into this beautiful home, very big, very spacious, enough room for everything that is coming over, from the studio equipment to all the things. You know, we basically moved everything over to here. And yeah, then more problems came up, and we didn't understand what was going on, but I understood something is not right, and it's, you know, this was my spiritual mind, my spiritual vibes telling me that something wasn't right about everything that was happening. So the next thing that happened was I started throwing up. I've been fine for many years with these stones, and directly at this moment, a very important time in my life, it hits. This pain hits like never before. I felt like I was dying. I was literally throwing up my insides. I threw up first all the food, and then it started to feel like I was throwing up my insides. And I was throwing up so hard and so heavy that my eyes, the white part of my eyes, turned red. And I didn't even realize I was throwing up. So I had meetings at studios and stuff like this, and I had to even leave. We had to leave the studio because I felt so bad, and I was just throwing up all the way to the car. It was so bad. So this was the day I had to go to the hospital. So now, to get back to what happened before, that let me know something is seriously wrong here. Now, while I'm throwing up in the bathroom, she's there trying to comfort me, right? And she's comforting me, and then all of a sudden she passes out. She passes out on the bathtub, and she started shaking. I'm throwing up in heavy pain. She's shaking and feeling weak, and she always said, you know, during the morning, because it didn't happen right away. We had some days in the house before this pain actually came. We were out doing things, everything was okay. But every morning, every once in a while, she would just stand up and like, I am completely dizzy. I do not know what's going on, why I'm so dizzy. And I was like, me too. And all of a sudden I was like, it's something weird. There's like a weird vibe in the house, because I will be sitting on the couch or on the bed or whatever, and all the hairs on my arm would literally stand up, and I watched them, and I was like, I even told her, like, look at my arms, look at all the hair, how it's standing up, like electric energy was flowing through me. And we were dizzy. So I remember something that the owners of the house said to me. They said to me, we have a smart meter on the back of the house. And I know anything smart, I understand a lot about smart technology. And I just thought to Google a smart meter and kind of learn a little bit more about it. So when I Googled about the smart meter, there was people having side effects that actually had the smart meter. Dizziness, they felt drowsy, they felt extremely tired. And I was wondering, what is this smart meter? How does it work? And then to come to find out that this smart meter is connected to the towers outside and is flowing energy through the whole house. So this could have been why the hair was up on my arms. I have no idea. But from our perspective, it was like we are in a different world. Something is not right here with the energy, the flow. This was before this happened. The cherry on top, the water in the glass, the wine in the glass, as we can say, another level, which was a high level, I can say, went into the glass, and it showed me once again that something's not right. So that was the first point to realize that, feeling dizzy. It erupted when she passed out. I was freaking out before myself, and I was freaking out for her. And I was asking nature, what is going on here? Something is not right. Something is not working the way it should. And it just felt completely off. So stay with me to the end here, because this story is like really, really interesting. Now, this was the first thing with the house. The second thing with the house that freaked me out to let me know that something spiritual was going on, and this is no lie. I swear to you, what I say is like totally like true, everything. Things in the house was moving around. No joke. We would put things somewhere, come back, and it was moved, it was gone. We would leave the house, come back, things was gone. We left one time, we put the computers off, turned the TV off, TV was on, her laptop was on, and she knows she put it off. And when she told me she put it off, I believe she put it off, because she's a person that is very organized like this. This is just how it works. So if she tell me she put it off, I know it's off. So I'm like wondering, what is going on here? The hair standing up, things moving around. That's all I can say about that. The level of tolerance was, it was getting more and more suspicious. The energy in the vibes was just not right. And I'm telling you, for an introverted person, this can be, a small thing like this can be very dramatic, on top of the other things that is coming up, So, the dizziness, the drowsiness, the being scammed out of €500. Very fast, the glass is becoming full. The glass of tolerance is becoming more and more full, and we're starting to get a little bit crazy even, huh? Thank God we didn't fight about it. Our relationship was never about fighting. Now, we had some disagreements at the very beginning, like some years ago, when we first started talking. But once we came together, everything was harmonic. We never fought. We never had, physical things or altercations or even fights even. Everything just blew up here. This is why it's so shocking. Everything at one time. But I'm going to tell you, once this glass gets full and it starts to spill over and it shatters the glass, the vibrations, this energy shatters the glass, sometimes people just have to go. Their instinct tell them to go. A survival instinct tell them to go, because they're just trying to save themselves, save the situations. This is why I'm not even angry about why she did what she did. I'm probably a little bit upset the way she did it. It could have been done differently, because I'm stuck here with a bunch of stuff that I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. And I mean, it's not helpful for me at all to have this stuff. Like, oh, you have the stuff now, as the relieving, you have the stuff, you can go pawn it in, get money for it. My mind is blown at the fact that my best friend and partner is like leaving, and I just understood later, a day later, about this whole situation of her glass of tolerance must have broke. Something must have broken in her mind, because I didn't even recognize who she was when she left, and I never saw it coming. The day before, we were holding each other, we went to the beach, we were cooking together, but I should have understood something was off, because she made more glasses of smoothies than normal. she put food away, and I actually still have it. I actually still have it in the fridge. It's just like I'm just really still trying to deal with everything. But she made food. It's like she knew, because she had it planned. She knew she was leaving, but I just didn't know about it. Everything was normal up until the fact, and I know that from the beginning, she told me that she's a coward. She's like, I'm a coward. She don't like situations that is too hard, for her. And I understood this. So let's just get back to this. It was probably just, in my opinion, I think it was too much for her. Her glass of tolerance was full. And like I said, we all have a different level of tolerance. There was a huge elephant in the room, and I'm a person, I don't like to run from the elephant or go around or ignore the elephant. I'm a person that like to poke the elephant or even try to push the elephant out. If I can't do it physically, then I'll try to do it mentally, because most of the time the elephant in the room is something that is mental that is going on with us. So I will try to push it out, right? But a lot of people don't like confrontation. Maybe this is how they are in their family, or they were raised like this. They just sweep problems under the rug, and they are good about ignoring things. So you never really know what the problem is because they don't talk about it. So, now I learned so much, and I didn't even realize I was with the introverted person until later. Once again, something spiritual told me and I stumbled on an introverted video, and then I understood, oh my God, this sounds just like her. Maybe she is introverted. You have to watch these signs. If your partner, don't like kids, don't like pets, impatient, very organized and structured, and watch part 1 again. I mean, it's really something that I take in now. It's just something I never thought about before. I never thought about how to be with the introverted person. I know that men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and I'm starting to read more books to enlighten me about this, about the difference between men and women. But I never thought that I was actually with the introverted person until it was too late, and then I understood all the things that I probably did wrong. Okay, but let's get back to the story. So we had the scam, we had the throwing up, passing out, the dizziness, which was just totally crazy, things moving around in the house. We can't explain that, but we witnessed this. I can't explain it, but we witnessed this. This is why something is telling me that something spiritual is going on, and everything that is happening to us is happening for a reason. This is the only reason why I say it was something spiritual going on, because excuse me, who's moving stuff? And sometimes it wasn't that we left, so it couldn't have been that we left and someone came in and did it. Sometimes it was just going to bed, waking up in the morning, going in there and seeing that something was moved, and we put extra there, and we weren't doing it because we were together like all the time. Like we held hands even in the house. We'll be chilling on the couch, holding hands, like, chilling so close and spiritually bonded that it's a shock now. And because some even wonder, was it real? Was I dreaming? Was it just pretending? Could a person put themselves in a position, I should do this, I should do that, this is the correct way to be? Or was it genuine, or was it not genuine? Because how could from that just come, I'm out and I'm gone? Unless the glass was completely broke, the tolerance level was full, and they just had enough and just couldn't take it no more, and it was almost feeling like a life or death situation where they just thought they had to go. And I know many people may be in a situation like this or something similar. There's definitely spiritual wars going on around the world. People are having problems. But I do believe if a couple is strong, as long as there's no cheating, there's no physical abuse, you can work through anything. Because there are problems out there that people will face, and you will be tested. My battery's low, so I will be careful about how long I make this. I may have to continue later. But yeah, But yeah, so we will always be tested in life. We will always have elephants appearing in the room, situations that come up. But for some people that are especially people who are introverted, it could be 10 times more dramatic if that kid is screaming. if the baby's crying. I remember situations now like, oh, it's too loud. Oh, you're talking too much. And they just need their quiet sometimes. Sometimes I just have to be quiet, go to my side of the house, do my thing, and give them some space. So I understood a lot more later, which will make me a stronger person, because we learn by living and being in these situations. But let me try to get a couple more things out before I have to recharge the phone. Another problem that was occurring that also added a little bit to it. We're both in the process of selling properties. It's hard to sell. So if the money's not coming in, and at the moment I wasn't working because I was here for a certain reason. My tour actually didn't start yet. I was actually scheduled to go to another part of the world, Spain, Portugal, where I have friends there doing this, and this is what happened afterwards. But I wanted to make sure everything is set up here first, because we wanted to be living here. And she actually came here because she had interviews, she had work set up and all this, and once again I let her organize that. But it was hard to even find a good job at the level that she is. And as proud as she is, which she deserves it, she worked for this. She speaks multiple language, very intelligent person. She wanted to find a job that fits her level. But it was again a big crash. Again, something being filled into the glass of tolerance, that when you don't find a job so quickly and you're spending all your money, your savings is going down, it is a horrible thing to deal with. So I really understand now why everything is happening. And she even gave me a grace time, because I'm working on my album and stuff. I had time to work on everything and to really get it going in a good way. And she actually wanted me to just put the cherry on the top, which I will do. I definitely have this fire now to do this, because that was one thing she said. Now you have time to really get everything going. And with this pain and all these things I went through, I'm definitely going to put this out and do it the best way possible, and the best way I know how, and that's through music and entertainment. So I will definitely be back stronger than before, more intelligent than before, more organized. I will organize things in my life, especially now. She went her way, I went my way. I'm going to take care of my things, and she's taking care of things at her place. I'm taking care of things at my place, and I don't know what's going to be in the future, but I know this was definitely a learning experience for me. And so that was another thing, so things are starting to pile up. You're starting to get how this can affect the introverted person. Like I said before, like, subscribe, and comment. And I wish you guys all the best. Have a great day. I have a lot to do and a lot to sort out in my mind. It's a whirlwind here, like literally, and it's super hot. The weather will be great. Everything will be great if the vibe was right. So maybe all this just happened for a reason, and it is just bad from both sides. Now we both have to start off with zero. Lost everything and have to start over. It's mind-blowing. I can't even explain the pain that is like inside. Like it's too much. Even my glass right about now is to the very tip. But there's an elephant in the room. There's things here. We signed a contract. Somebody has to take care of this. Somebody has to stand up. Whoever had the most. And if one person couldn't deal with it and had to bail out, one of us have to finish what we started here. What would life happen if we both just took off? She ran home, I ran home, and just left everything. It would be just totally disastrous. Okay guys, have a good day. I wish you guys all the best. Have a wonderful day. If you love someone, keep them close, talk to them, try to understand them, because every day a person wake up, they don't go to bed the same person. Get to know your partner each and every day. Get to conversate with them. This is something we didn't have. This is something we didn't have. We always talked to each other. We always complimented each other. I always said thank you. I never took this person for granted. I always said how special this person was to me. This is something I learned to do by reading and learning and educating myself. But I'll tell you something, life can break everyone's glass. Life situation can destroy everything that you build once your level of tolerance is broken. You need time to heal that. If a glass is broken, it's sharp. It can cut you. You need time, and I understand this. People need time So guys, just understand this story and understand what's going on and understand what's happening in your life if you're in a weird situation. And I wish you guys all the best. I'm out. Stay tuned for part 3, and I wish you guys all the best. Bye. What's up, guys? Have a safe trip, yeah? Have a safe trip, all right? Have a safe trip, guys.